It is 12 o'clock noon Monday, January 21st, Queensland, Australia time, and we are still dealing with a tropical low in the Gulf of Carpentaria that appears to be on the verge of becoming a tropical cyclone. After temporarily moving onshore over the Northern Territory, the tropical low has re-emerged over the southern Gulf of Carpentaria, and over the past 12 hours the low has shown signs of organization. Therefore, the Bureau of Meteorology has had to issue cyclone warnings for the entire western coast of the Cape York Peninsula, and we could see an upgrade to Category 1 cyclone intensity later tonight. Beyond landfall, the latest official forecast is calling for a gradual turn toward the south, and there is even a chance that the low will move back into the Gulf for a third time, but we will take a closer look at that with the model guidance later on in this video. The latest microwave satellite pass has captured the storm within the past 3 hours, and you can see increasing banding features, but more importantly, the center of circulation appears to be located in the middle of this surrounding convection, so this is a sign of increasing organization and strengthening. The latest radar animation out of Mornington Island also confirms that the center of circulation is to the northeast over the open waters, giving this time for more strengthening before the storm makes landfall over the Cape York Peninsula. The tropical low is also taking on a more symmetric appearance on visible satellite imagery, and this is another indication that the storm is not only organizing, but that upper level winds are favorable enough for at least slow intensification into a minimal tropical cyclone. And although the southern semicircle has lost some of the deeper and colder cloud tops on the enhanced infrared within the last 6 hours, this is somewhat of a normal cycle during the afternoon hours, but later on tonight we could see another flare-up of convection near that surface circulation, and any additional convective development near the surface low could be enough to strengthen those winds to cyclone intensity, so an upgrade to Category 1 status could come at any time. Regional water vapor imagery shows that the tropical low is rather small in size, which coincides with the rather narrow structure of the upper level ridge axis located in the mid to upper levels. And we can also see the mid-level steering factors. We do have an upper level low over the Coral Sea, and the westerly flow to the north of this upper level low combined with troughing out across Queensland is promoting a gradual turn toward the east over the Cape York Peninsula. But over the next 72 to 96 hours we will see a return of ridging along the Northern Territory, and this could promote a turn back toward the west or southwest. The latest low-level vorticity analysis also confirms the presence of the surface circulation over the southeast Gulf of Carpentaria. The latest wind shear stream analysis shows us that we have a very narrow pocket of favorable upper-level ridging over top the tropical system, and those wind shear values are low across the southeast Gulf, and as you move more toward the north, that is where the wind shear values begin to increase. So again, the pocket for favorable conditions is very small, but it is in the prime position for the storm to at least take advantage and slowly develop, with land interaction still being the main inhibitor of further development. This is just another view of the low to mid-level steering flow, and as we saw on water vapor imagery, we do have an upper level low situated to the southwest of New Caledonia, and this troughing extends toward the Queensland coast, and we also have some westerly flow embedded within the monsoon trough, so that is the main reason why we are expecting an east-northeast track toward the Cape York Peninsula, but eventually this westerly flow is going to break down. This is the main concern because the breakdown of those steering currents means that the storm will gradually slow down and become nearly stationary for up to 24 to 48 hours and meander about across the Cape York Peninsula, thus increasing the chances of heavy rainfall and flooding. We are now looking at the latest 12Z run of the ECMWF model. It correctly initializes the low over the southern Gulf of Carpentaria, and over the next 24 to 48 hours we see a northeast track toward the Cape York Peninsula, but as we go into day 3 and day 4, we don't see much in the way of movement. If anything, a gradual turn back toward the southwest, and those surface pressures are still fairly low, so we could still be flirting with near Category 1 intensity at this time. Not to mention by day 5, the model is now showing the storm over water enough to where it is showing even more in the way of intensification, so not only will there be a risk of flooding over the peninsula, but also the chance for additional strengthening if it moves back over water. Finally, as we work our way into day 6, the model is showing yet another landfall across the Northern Territory, but this is an extended range forecast. As we turn to the ECMWF steering pattern forecast as we go into day 2 and day 3, you can still see the troughing out across the Coral Sea, and also the tropical cyclone becoming more prominent even in the mid to upper levels as it continues to strengthen. However, by day 3, the biggest thing to point out is this ridging located to the southwest of the cyclone, and the flow around the ridge will promote a bend back toward the west, and this is a scenario that many of the models are now latching onto, and we are seeing better model agreement compared to what we had 24 and 48 hours ago. This is now a view of the 18Z run of the American GFS model. As we go into 24 hours, we see the storm making landfall as a more robust tropical low or potentially even minimal cyclone. And then as we work our way into 48 hours, it is nearly stationary over the interior Cape York Peninsula. By day 3, it is adjusted a little bit more toward the southwest. By day 4, it is hugging the southern coast of the Cape York Peninsula and the Gulf of Carpentaria. And as we go into day 6, it is continuing to very slowly move toward the south, thus enhancing the rainfall risk. But the good news compared to the European is that if it were to take this track, it would not have time to redevelop over the Gulf and simply just become more of a rainfall nuisance as it moves into the more southern regions of Queensland. So the main concern over the next week or so will be the risk of heavy rainfall and flooding. This is based on climatology, what we could ordinarily expect in terms of rainfall along the Cape York Peninsula. We're looking at values in excess of 50 to 75 millimeters, but if we are to believe the latest GFS forecast for the next 7 days, we're going to be looking at in excess of 300 to 400 millimeters of rainfall, especially along the coastline to the west of the Great Dividing Range. This will be the area facing the highest risk of heavy rainfall and flooding. And if the track is more toward the south in the extended range, then of course these areas will still be dealing with quite a lot of rainfall as well. But keep in mind that the rainfall forecast is highly dependent on the verification of the track. If the track is nudged more toward the west, then the rainfall totals will have to be shifted along with it. Also, as we take a look at the GFS's progged 500 hectopascal steering height pattern, we can see as we go into 72 hours, the reason why the model is not showing the track as far west as the European is because the southern extent of the ridge over southern Australia is not quite as robust as what we were seeing within the European model, thanks to this oncoming trough from Perth. And you can see the trough now fully established over New South Wales and southern Queensland as we go into day 5 and day 6, and that is enough reason to pull the tropical cyclone more southerly compared to the European. But I must warn you that the European is usually a little bit more accurate in the extended range, and one of the tendencies with the GFS is to deepen these troughs a little bit more than what it should. So we are going to have to be monitoring the low very closely to see if it moves back over the Gulf and potentially re-intensify. Additionally, this is a look at the 12Z run of the Canadian CMC model over the next 6 days, and the CMC is a bit of a compromise between the European and GFS solutions. As we go into day 5 and day 6, the low is still out across the southeast Gulf, but not quite far enough offshore to take advantage of the water temperatures there, and instead it's really just parked over northern Queensland and dumping a lot of rainfall. And of course the accumulation in terms of rainfall over the next 6 days will be well in excess of 200 millimeters as shown in this graphic. So we have been forecasting the development of Cyclone Oswald over the Gulf for the past several days, and it still appears that this forecast will verify. It looks as though we will have at least a Category 1 making landfall along the peninsula, with the main threat being heavy rainfall, although minor wind damage cannot be ruled out. For official information, you're still going to want to turn to the Bureau of Meteorology, but we will continue to provide you with supplementary updates here at 28storms.com, so please keep us in your bookmarks for more updates. And in terms of the intensity, once again, the flooding will be the main threat, but as is the case with any tropical cyclone that is expected to hug a coastline for a period of several days, the intensity forecast is still highly in question. We could be dealing with nothing more than a flooding threat, but at the same time, if it moves offshore for an extended period, we could always be dealing with a more severe tropical cyclone. So that wraps up your 28storms.com update for this early Monday afternoon. Please go ahead and visit 28storms.com/cyclone for more updates and also more links to the official sources on the left-hand side. So thanks again for tuning in, and stay tuned.